Alright, BobalosRex here. In today's video, of course you're already going to know from the title, is something along the lines of, is 10.2 going to be the last patch? And essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to talk about my opinion, because right now it's all conjecture, it's all opinions, it's all, ooh, is Blizzard doing this? Or are they doing that? What, blah, blah, blah. So, a lot of people have been talking about how 10.2 may be Dragonflight's last major patch, last major raid, and that would make Farak the big end boss. Now, speaking in regards to lore and whatnot, about what I think a 10.3, a 10.2.5, 2.7, and what the rest of 10.3 would be, that's tomorrow's video. Lore stuff is tomorrow. Today, I'm going to talk about the timeline. But first, I'm going to talk about why people think 10.2 is the last patch and why I disagree. So, one of the things people brought up, which is silly, and this stems from a Shadowlands Draenor problem. But people are talking about this achievement right here, Dragon Isles Pathfinder. People are like, oh my god, there's a Pathfinder. And some people blurted out, I think Pathfinders only come out in the final patch. Isn't that right? No. That is absolutely wrong. Pathfinders always come out in a 0.2, which for some expansions have been the final patch. But that's not always the case. Let's look at all the other Pathfinders. Battle for Azeroth had one right at the start, and then this one came out with Nazjatar and Mechagon, which was the 0.2 patch of BFA. BFA went on to have a 0.3, which was N'Zoth. Alright? So there's that one. Broken Isles. Broken Isles had a part 1 and a part 2. Part 2, guess when that one came in place? When the Broken Shore opened up, which was the 0.2. Alright. Now, let's check the OG though. Draenor Pathfinder. This came out in the 0.2. And then it came out in the Hellfire patch. Maybe it was the point. Draenor missed a lot, but again came out. It was the last raid because Draenor was cut. Now, Shadowlands had one. I don't know why that's not... It didn't pop up when I typed it. What was it called? Unlocking the Secrets. So, this came out in Zereth Mortis, and that unlocks Zereth Mortis flying, but there was a previous one. Where was it? That's so weird. There was... Shadowlands flying got unlocked in the 1.5 patch. Let me look it up. But people that think it was unlocked early are thinking of the Zereth Mortis flying. Yeah, so Shadowlands flying... Oh wait, this is 9.25. Yeah, see... Flying started in Shadowlands in 9.1, and it came out with the Covenant campaign. Alright? Then Zereth Mortis had this, which gave Zereth Mortis flying, and this is what everyone's thinking. But if you don't remember, in Korthia, we got flying with the Covenant campaign, and then we got the Covenant mounts. So that was even the 0.2 of Shadowlands, because it was 1.9.1. But it had been like a year later. So anyone saying Pathfinders come out in the last patch of an expansion is flat out wrong. Alright? Like, objectively wrong. Alright? Next up. Only end bosses have mythic raid mounts. Some people have said that. Let's double check that. The last two big expansions that had full numbers, Legion. Gul'dan had a mythic mount. Yep, if you don't remember, Gul'dan had a mythic mount. There it is. Jaina had a mythic mount. Or not that. Jaina had a mythic mount. Also, N'Zoth did. Also, Argus did. So the final bosses had mythic mounts, and earlier bosses had mythic mounts. Sylvanas had a mythic mount. Jailer had one. Alright, now people are saying, oh, but the head of the curve mount. End bosses only have a head of the curve. And that is true. Only end bosses have dropped ahead of the curve quest items that give you a mount. Currently, let's go down there to the Drake skin. There is a head of the curve achievement for Farok. And also, this is where I'm getting interested. Because Blizzard added the first ever ahead of the curve for a mythic mega dungeon. And that awarded transmog. And this apparent... So, Shadowflame. This is the ahead of the curve mount that people are talking about. It's through an achievement. But again, it's not a mount. It's a Drake skin. So, if this was the first end of raid, end of expansion ahead of the curve mount, one, it would not come from a quest item. Or currently, it wouldn't come from a quest item. And two, it's not a mount. It's a customization. So you would be even losing the mount total of the ahead of the curve. Alright, so that to me is questionable. Right now, I do like that they're adding an ahead of the curve Drake skin. I wonder if this is a sign for them adding rewards to ahead of the curves across the board. Like I said, we saw our first dungeon ahead of the curve here. Or would it be? This is our first dungeon ahead of the curve. And it awards the title. So they are awarding stuff for ahead of the curves. Alright? So I think that's just that. I don't think the ahead of the curve off of Fyrak is any sign that Farok is the last boss. And another thing people said, maybe we'll get a Shadowlands Season 4. If I remember correctly, they said Season 4 was a test, and they currently... It seemed like they didn't plan to do that all the time. But they're like, okay, this works if we need to. Alright? So, that is a non-argument. You can't assume that we're always going to get Shadowlands Season 4 content. And then some people have mentioned, is this Blizzard lining up for a summer expansion launch? That's just, you're throwing it out there, because Blizzard has always like the 2-year launch cycle. And especially if you look at the timeline that I'm about to talk about, it's very interesting. So let's get to the timeline. Alright, we'll get to the calendar. So, if things go through my timeline, and I'm going to say this. People are trying to figure out whether or not this patch is going to launch in October or November. If this patch launches in October, I am 100% certain we have a 10.3. The question would be if it launches in November. But if it launches in October, I actually personally think it's going to launch after BlizzCon. 2 dates I have in mind are the... I don't think it could hit the 24th. But this is the window right here. 24th, 31st, and 7th. I think the 7th. My second bet would be it hits at the last week of the time walking. At the 24th. So they don't have it in the BlizzCon week. But it could vary. Like I said, these 3 weeks are the window. 24th, 31st of October, and the 7th of November. I'm saying the 7th, but this is the window. So let's put out the timeline that I think it's going to be, because, like I said, I think there's going to be a 10.3. Now let's talk about the timeline. So we got 10.2, let's just say in November. 10.2.5 in January. This lines up with the Outland Cup, as you can see on this calendar on the PTR. Alright. Then, that lines up with March for 10.2.7. Alright. Then we have an April with the Northrend Cup. Alright. And in my timeline, 10.3 would hit in May. Alright. Or it could be in April. It's like, look at this Northrend Cup that lines up with a 10.3. I may be hinting about something I'm going to talk about tomorrow. So then you have a 10.3.5 with this 2-month thing in July with the Pandaria Cup on the schedule. This is cool. And then a 10.3.7 in September. And then that lines up with 11.0, and I can't go any further, but you see there's a Broken Isles here. In October of next year. You see the Broken Isles down here? Yeah, just right next to my face right here. This is Broken Isles Cup. Lead, and I can't move the calendar anymore. So you have October with the Broken Isles Cup, and then November, which is the 20th WoW anniversary, and I see 11.0 launching in November on the 20th anniversary of Warcraft, World of Warcraft. Alright? That's what I think is going to play out. That's why I think there's going to be a 10.3, because that all lines up with this new awesome patch cadence. I just hope no one's being crunched. And here's the thing. They've been doing this double PTR. That would work so well. You'd have the 10.3 PTR stuff rolling out while they're testing the expansion as well. While we have the alpha probably in March or something. You know, they would have 10.2 would have launched. Like, say we have the October launch, right? So then we even see more of 10.2 before the BlizzCon, so they can be like, yo, here's what 10.3 is going to be about, and that's going to lead us into the new expansion. And I'm going to talk more about lead-in patches and whatnot, but they've been doing these 0.7s that lead into the next story. So a 10.2.7 patch, which would hit March, would be what neatly leads into the 10.3 stuff. And then 10.3 as a big expansion patch is this raid, and then that will lead us into whatever kind of expansion. And tomorrow I will talk about some of the expansion ideas I have. Or, no, some of the lead-in to the next expansion ideas I have for a 10.3. Because tomorrow I'm talking Lore Rant 10.3. Who would be the final boss of Dragonflight if not Farok? And personally, I don't see Farok as a... If I ever thought about a Dragon expansion, I know he's new and he came out, I would have never thought Farok, this new Flamo guy, would be the final boss of a Dragon expansion. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about who I think should be the final boss of Dragonflight. If Farok is the final boss, I will deal. I love WoW. I've been loving this expansion. But I'm on team 10.3. And I think we're going to see some good stuff. But yeah, I will be talking about the lore stuff and what I actually think a 10.3 could look like tomorrow. This is my video telling you all that if I'm as psychically linked to World of Warcraft as I have been, especially with the last date I got right, I think we're getting a 10.3. Anyways, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.